welcome to this daily devotional. I want to share with you from the book of Romans. Perhaps it's a passage you've heard before, and my suspicion is you've probably heard it in specific contexts. But I'm going to start one verse before it, and it's chapter 12, starting at verse 1. This is kind of Paul offering a summary, a mid-letter summary, if you will. So, brothers and sisters, because of God's mercies, I encourage you to present your bodies as a living sacrifice that is holy and pleasing to God. This is your appropriate priestly service. Don't be conformed to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your minds so that you can figure out what God's will is, what is good and pleasing and mature. There's a few things we need to talk about in this passage. The first is that Paul here says, I encourage you to present your bodies as a living and holy sacrifice. Why do you think Paul was concerned with bodies? I don't know if Paul was simply just talking about our physical bodies, but it wouldn't surprise me. Because think about how we care for our physical bodies. We probably don't treat them the way we should. Sometimes in a physical way, like we don't exercise the way we should. And I'm right there with you. Maybe we don't eat the way we should, or we do things to our bodies like smoking or drugs that can be harmful. And this isn't the no drinking alcohol speech. But it is talking about maybe we need to think about what is it doing to our bodies. Can we get to a point with substances that it begins to truly harm us and harm others? I think about what does responsible alcohol consumption look like. That's probably something to think about. And how can we model that responsible nature to those around us, especially kids and youth? If you choose not to consume alcohol, how can you show that as a choice you're making? And maybe share with those around you why it's the choice that you are making. Wouldn't that start an interesting conversation with others if we talked about why we are treating our bodies the way we are? Maybe we think about the food we eat. That's been a challenge of mine I can share with you. I have a joke when people ask me if I've eaten a specific meal. Have you had lunch? And my response is, I've not missed many meals. Sometimes I find myself overeating or eating because I'm bored. And I have to be careful about that. We have to be careful about how we treat our bodies, because Paul is saying, how are we offering our very selves to God as an offering? He says, this is your very priestly and appropriate service. Priestly service in Paul's time and throughout the scriptures was to be those who cared for the temple. They would be the ones who would slaughter the animal for sacrifice. They would be the ones to present that offering to God. So if our priestly service is to present our bodies as a holy sacrifice to God, doesn't that mean that the way we treat our bodies matters? So then let's turn to this next verse. It says, don't be conformed to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your minds so that you can figure out what God's will is, what is good and pleasing and mature. We can apply this to a lot of things, can't we? But it becomes difficult because we then ask ourselves, well, whose definition of good, pleasing, and mature are we using? What does that look like? How do we know if something is good, pleasing, and mature to God? I go back to my simple rule that I like to follow. And it goes back to Jesus' teaching on what it means to follow the commandments. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. That's what we're talking about now, the self, right? How do we love the self? It means being happy with who you are, but also knowing that there's room for improvement, right? We can always better ourselves, but who you are is beautiful. Who you are created to be is beautiful. No matter what the world says you should look like, who you are, how you look is beautiful. I am so tired of the world telling us what we need our bodies to look like. I was laughing the other day when I heard someone say the most freeing thing for them as men was when they found out that having a dad bod was okay. But I know that there are so many who struggle with that. But remember, you are a beautiful, wonderful, created being of God. You are a child of God. So how do you treat yourself? Because how we treat ourselves, how we love ourselves matters. When you look in a mirror, do you remind yourself that you are more than the clothes you wear? You're more than the shoes on your feet. You're more than the style of your hair. You're more than the weight. You're more than any of that. You are a beautiful creation of God. And so don't be transformed by how the world says you need to look. Be who you are. Now, I know this devotion is getting a little bit long, but I want to share with you one last thought. Some people have asked why it is that I wear t-shirts and jeans, or at the most fancy level, I'll wear a button-up shirt with the sleeves rolled up or something like that. I dress down because that's how I am most comfortable. That's how I feel the most like me. And I need to do that to remind myself that I love me. And I am okay with me. I don't need to dress in a way to improve me. The way I treat others and love myself, love God, that's what matters. But you, me, all of us are beautiful creations of God. Amen.